Hello and welcome. This is DFW Spotlight on Business with Heidi Hardy. I'm just jumping inside with excitement, and this is our launch show. And before we get started, I really want to bring Amy into the conversation because she agreed, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago to be my first guest, and we had lunch. It was great. It was on Solar Eclipse Day, wasn't it?
It was.
And I've just been giddy excited to share this experience with you, Amy. And so welcome. Amy is the CEO of the Power Group.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, especially on the first show.
Well, I couldn't be more excited. And you know, what we're hoping is that we can get the word out about business in DFW. You know, our little tagline is we do business in DFW and business is good.
Business is good.
Yeah.
Texas is a great place for entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs. I mean, it is a place that nurtures and, even when people fall down, they help you get back up. I mean, Texas is just an awesome place.
It really is. And we'll talk about DFW because I think, I've worked across the nation as you do as well. And it's always good to work with and visit other states. I especially love the DFW area because it's such a diverse, business ownership, the entrepreneurs, the startups. There's so many really exciting things happening. But let me explain to everyone who's listening and clicked in for us that this is, for me, I'm a business performance advisor with Insperity. And, Insperity, I want to read this because I really like what they stand for, and I want people to ask questions on a one-on-one basis with me anytime, because this is more about being an advisor to a business owner than pushing something on someone that may not be a good fit for them. So Insperity aligns very well with that, and they're masters at providing HR solutions. Insperity fights for your business, helping you remove obstacles and sidestep the setbacks. And what they believe is that you are a hero of your business, mastering challenges day in and day out. Insperity is here to run with you, giving you the tools to go further, higher, and faster. Your journey to the American dream is extraordinary, and we want to help you seize it. So I wanted to read that because when you and I met, and you told your story, the first thing I thought about, man, this woman is so brave. And I know, that's probably, you've been told that probably a few times.
I have people say, I don't know how you do it, those kind of comments, but you just get up and, like the old adage, you put one foot in front of the other every single day. And it's also easier to do when you love what you do. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't have it any other way. I love having my own business. Like I said, Dallas is a place where entrepreneurship and just that go-get-it attitude is always there. It's ever present. When I left Atlanta in 1990, after graduating from college, I piled all my stuff in my red Honda Prelude. Red is my color, clearly.
And it looks good. Good color.
And I drove to Texas with my father. And then this was, before everybody had a cell phone in their pocket. And my dad said, okay, we're here. Now that we've dropped your stuff off, we're going to, drive me to the airport and I'll see you later. Good luck. And 17 years later, here I am, as an entrepreneur. So I think entrepreneurism is an act of heroism in a way, or
it's blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
I mean, that's and that's the topic of the show. It's blood, sweat, and tears as a business owner. I wanted to also introduce myself to everyone. I have been in new business development for over 18 years. In 2014, I walked into a studio like this, and I started talking behind a mic, and I don't know, I could feel a lightning bolt just strike me, and I loved it, and I knew that was what I wanted to do forever. And so here I am doing another radio show, and I'm very proud of the radio show that I did do. It was called Real Life DFW. I was awarded the 2015 Female Host of the Year.
That's fantastic.
It was a great honor because, a lot of them are your colleagues and people that work with you and alongside you. So to be voted for that was an honor. And then the show was nominated for the show of the year, so the talk show of the year. So I'm doing something fun and something I love, and here we are doing it again. And thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
To help us do this. Yeah. Well, and like I mentioned, I am a business advisor with Insperity. We want you to ask questions, and not just about Insperity, but we're going to talk about the Power Group. We're going to talk about Amy and her story. She already gave us a little tease and a hint, and I love that because I'm picturing a red Honda going down the road and all the adventures that came after that. But we want you to make sure to follow us on Facebook. You can follow us at DFW Spotlight on Business on Facebook. Just sort of click into that. You can follow us on Twitter at Heidi_Hardy. And you can also follow us on reallifemediallc.com. And this is a presentation of reallifemediallc.com. That is my company. It's a very small media company, but it is the company that gives me all this creative energy and helps me to expend it from a media standpoint. So speaking of media, let's talk a little bit about the Power Group and tell the audience a little bit about it, and then we're actually going to go into it deeper after the first break. But so just give us a
Sure.
quick
We will be celebrating 18 years in business this October 4th. And there's a funny backstory to that, which I can share with you a little bit later in the show. We are an integrated marketing firm, a full service PR firm. So it's the things that you would expect, certainly, helping clients increase their share of voice in the marketplace, helping them create a positive image, managing and driving their social media engagement. One thing that we do quite a bit of is crisis PR. Planning and response, helping clients manage the responses to crisis situations. So we are an award-winning crisis PR firm, and frankly, that's just a lot of fun because you get to really help clients navigate those messy situations.
Sure.
And we help clients, establish their brand and their brand voice. So we do a lot of things back at the Power Group. We work with restaurants across a lot of different industries, fast food, all the way to fine dining, and commercial real estate, technology, healthcare. So we touch a lot of industries. We can speak a lot of languages for clients.
I find the crisis the crisis PR, the public relations, really, really interesting because and we'll get into this together. This is a conversation, just like we had at lunch, and I really enjoy these conversations. And, I think nobody expects a crisis,
right?
Obviously it's a crisis, and usually it's something unexpected happens. But having a trusted advisor by their side is, I'm sure, very critical. So let's dig into that a little bit later in the show. One of the things I wanted to start the show off asking you, because I get a lot of questions about this, and I don't want to forget it before the end of the show. I know we're going to get into your story and the company. Business development is one of the most critical parts of owning your own business these days. And so what you're doing as a media group and a media company is helping people build a brand, get their name out there. But from a business development, I was impressed with what you do to build your business. And so can you share with us a little bit of the things that you do to build the Power Group business?
Yeah, I think there's two key things that my staff understands, and that is we're all trying to create what I call a bulletproof reputation. And you get there by by hitting your deadlines, by hitting your marks, by delivering, when you said you would deliver, and then also producing, error-free content,
Right.
whether that's in the form of a press release or social media post or whatever. So if you keep if you keep focused and keep yourself and your staff focused on excellence, just across the board in terms of service and the product you're creating, regardless of the business you're in, you'll find that clients just naturally come to you. Our business really has been built on reputation, one client at a time, if you will.
Yeah.
But as you get into a more mature state, if you will, cycle of business, you have to start putting in processes and procedures. And so in the last couple of years, I cannot emphasize enough how wonderful it is to really have a very tight sales process that is customized to our company. And so now we have two members on our development team. It's not just me. And it was a really funny moment in the office back in 2014. I had trained and empowered one young lady we had just put in a new sales role, and discovered that was really where she needed to be. So we focus on putting the right people in the right seats, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So I'm turning the corner, and she said, "Amy, I'd like for you to meet so and so. They're going to be our new client." And you could have knocked me over with a feather because I usually handled all of that, but she had been empowered, trained, and we had a process to follow. And she's really succeeding in her role, and we just added a second person this year.
Oh, that's wonderful. One of the things that you also do is you're active in your community, in your collegiate community. I know you attend a few networking groups, and talk to us a little bit about that. And the reason, let me just sort of back up a little bit, because there are business owners who aren't taking the time to do that. And so when I'm sitting down with a business owner, we're talking about IT problems or logistic issues, right, or process issues, things that are just bugging them every single day. But then lastly, and I got to find a great sales team. And I would really, like more time to build my business professionally on my own. So talk to us a little bit about, why you do those things, and are they working for you, the networking and the groups?
Yeah. Interestingly, I had a lunch today, and I was helping another business owner, see the value of getting out from behind their business, or out from behind the computer rather. So I was very intentional. When the company was about 5 or 6 years old, I just decided I need to start getting out. I need to start networking. My kids were getting into school at that point. And I teamed up with a friend who had a business in kind of a similar stage of growth. And we buddied up and just started networking together and going to events. And it just becomes exponential.
Yeah,
you find that this person knows this person, and Dallas is such a friendly place. It's easy to do here.
Yeah.
So it's just something, again, that has to be very intentional.
Yeah.
And I'm doing actually more and more of it now. I find, because my kids are getting older and I've got plenty of free time in the evenings to network.
It's the evenings, right?
Yeah. As a working mom, that's a tough one. Yeah.
Especially, if there's soccer practice and all those things that you have to go to. And I love the morning ones, and the lunch and learns are great, but those evening ones can be a little bit hard to attend. But a lot of times those are the good ones, because they're having a glass of wine, they're relaxing, and they just want to talk and visit. So
well, this goes back to the need for a sales process and a sales team.
Sure.
I mean, there's only so much of the owner to go around. And so, especially if your name's on the door. So, having people that can really follow the guidelines and rules of engagement for your company and be there when you can't. So,
yes, absolutely.
Either one of my colleagues can go attend something on my behalf,
I think that's a show in itself. And actually, I was having a conversation with a colleague, because the business owners that are succeeding, and many of them are doing fantastic. Yeah. They're growing. If they could clone themselves, they would. And so that's a great piece of information, and we certainly love discussing that, and we're going to be discussing that in every show at the beginning with our guests. We're going to take a quick break and just to learn more about Insperity, and when we come back, we're going to really dig into your story.
Okay.
And we'll talk more about the Power Group.
Okay.
This is Heidi Hardy. You're listening to DFW Spotlight on Business, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to today's Biz Moment, brought to you by Insperity, inspiring business performance. Today's topic is failure. You weren't expecting that, were you? It's okay, because these are tips for coaching your employees through the inevitable trials and tribulations of work life. Number one, think about your own failures. What caused it, and how did your leader at the time help you resolve the situation? Just remember that you too, young Padawan, were once new to this task or job, and someone helped you learn the ropes. Be that person for someone else and pass along the knowledge. Number two, analyze the mistake. Was this a mistake due to inattention or not enough training? Was it major or minor? Does every team member make the same mistake their first week, and why? Was the employee facing a situation your company hasn't seen before? Analyzing is key. Just think about Freud. Number three, but also don't overanalyze. Find the balance in between those two. When faced with constant failures, some employees can fall into analysis paralysis. Try to remember that it's important to keep trying, especially if the employee is in the process of learning a new skill or testing a new process. Number four, ignore or work around minor mistakes. Don't sweat the small stuff. Some employees need to learn by experience, so it's almost better to let them fail on a minor scale from time to time. And of course, as always, there are exceptions to this rule when it comes to health and safety, but you get the gist. Number five, realize that failures may sometimes have a silver lining. Sometimes mistakes are good. When handled properly, they can lead to innovation, business growth, and new knowledge for the company. Risk isn't always a bad thing after all, is it? Stay tuned for more Insperity Biz Moments, business tips for savvy leaders. For more like these, visit the Insperity blog at insperity.com.
Welcome back. This is Heidi Hardy, and you're watching DFW Spotlight on Business. I love those biz moments. I don't know if you guys catch those on LinkedIn or Facebook, but they're often really helpful, and they're like 2 minutes, which I think is perfect because busy business owners don't have a lot of time to peruse the social media sphere. So thank you, Insperity, for that. I'm here with Amy Power, and we're having a conversation. The topic today is blood, sweat, and tears of owning a business. And I don't know, I maybe hundreds, but I've met with dozens and dozens of business owners in my career. And I think one of the things that they have in common is they have a really great story, a beginning, and then where they want to be. And usually there's some bumps and other things in the process. And so we're here with Amy, and she's going to share with us her story. But before she does that, and we invite her back in to share, I want to read her bio. It's great. Amy Power is the founder and president of the Power Group, headquartered in Dallas, Texas. She works hand in hand with CEOs and marketing directors of nationally known brands as well as entrepreneurial ventures. Amy has been a publicist for more than 20 years. She has public relations marketing experience that spans the following industries: consumer packaged goods, commercial real estate, franchising, outsourcing, telecommunications, sports marketing, automotive and aviation, luxury marketing, medical and dental, nonprofits, as well as a wide array of retail concepts. Her experience and client roster include work for national brands such as Pepsi, Pepsi-Cola, Frito-Lay, and Borden, to emerging brands such as Vacation in a Bottle, Which, and Kavanaugh Flight Museum, which I thought was really interesting. We'll have to learn more about that. The other part I loved about her bio, and I think we're going to do this in every show now, is she added some personal stuff about herself. So her first concert her first concert was the B-52s at the Fox Theater in Atlanta.
I'm really dating myself with that one, but yes.
Oh, I go way back. We'll have to talk about that one. Her favorite restaurant in Dallas is Uchi.
Mm-hmm.
Uchi. Okay. And best piece of advice you were given or favorite quote. And these are quotes. Something happens when you are ready. Unquote. Cocktail of choice, and she's a woman after my own heart. Vodka and soda with 2 limes. I like 3 limes, but I think we're close. And then the go-to karaoke song is anything from the Pretenders. Plus, she loves Chrissy Hines Bangs. I love them too. I've tried Bangs several times. It's a us women we struggle with our hairs sometimes.
It's cheaper than Botox.
Yeah. Well, I haven't investigated that yet, but I'm not taking that off the table. Amy, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to our show.
It's a
Thank you
pleasure.
so much. We're really excited to have you. Thank you. The bio is great. It obviously shows that you've been doing some really great things over the last 20 years. I'm going to shut up and let you tell us your story because there is a part of it that you shared with us that I have this vision in my head and visual in my head, and I love it. So take it away.
Sure. It's when you start your company, you get going, and some people start without a business plan, some people do, but you hit the ground running as an owner. And so I was, 5-6 years into the business, and somebody stopped me one day and said, "How did you start the company?" And I really had never told anybody the story around this. And so I've shared it more and more, and it's really funny the reaction I get. But my son and my company share the same birth date for a reason. So October 4th, 1999 was when my son was born, and that was the day I started my company. So this October, both will be 18, and I can't believe it. It's absolutely flown. But I was...
Okay.
Yeah.
Did everybody catch that? I know you're going to get into, but the same day that you had a baby,
Yes.
you had a baby company. You started a company.
Yeah.
That same day.
I really think a good book would be like birthing a company or something like that, right?
Absolutely.
So that's always been something I've toyed with. But anyway, I was going into labor, and my husband and my mom were with me. We were rushing off to the hospital, just as you imagine, picture the moment to be. And we got to the hospital, and of course, I was in a lot of agony at
Yes,
that point. First child. And the woman said, I thought, well, this baby should be here any moment. And she said, "Oh no, you're going to be here for a while. And on a 10-point scale, you're a 2. And so you might as well just have your epidural and relax." And so I said, "Great, sign me up. I'll take it." So I received my epidural, and then my husband called home to check messages. And a gentleman had called. He had been a client in a previous life, if you will, when I was working for other people. And I had since gone off on my own and was I knew I wanted to start my own company. I just didn't know this would be the moment. So this gentleman called, and I listened to the message, and I said, "Ken, give me the phone. I've got to call him back." And my husband was just pacing the room and very anxious. And here I am on the phone conducting business. And
in the middle of contractions.
Yes, in the middle of contractions. And so I said, "Well, Bobby, if you'll just wait for me for 6 weeks, I will give you a call back. I'm getting ready to have a baby." And he was a family man, and he understood. And so my husband, meanwhile, said, "Can you please get off the phone? We're going to have our baby. It's our, So I was like, "Just give me a minute." So I took care of that. And then, later on that evening, had a beautiful baby boy.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
so both happened on the same day, truly. And that company ended up becoming my first client. It started off as a small Porsche dealership in Richardson, and the 2 gentlemen that started it formed a partnership and launched what is now Boardwalk Auto Group. So I helped them bring that dealership over to Plano, establish solid marketing routes,
Sure.
Position the president as a leader in the community, et cetera, and grew with them. And that's really what started me on the path of being an entrepreneur. And a mom.
And a mom. Yes, definitely. I just I just find that story, truly dedicated entrepreneur because you could have sent that to voicemail and said, "Hey, I'm in the middle of it." That's a legitimate excuse, I would say.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but you were so excited for both things and
Yeah.
this new adventure in your life as a mom and a new business owner. So
I think you just know your moment
yeah,
as an entrepreneur. I mean, even back in college, I knew I knew I wasn't going to have the typical 9 to 5 job.
right,
And I am the only entrepreneur in my family, an extended family, with the exception of my grandmother, who now I recognize probably, helped me or maybe helped foster some desire by watching her. She
yeah.
had her own seamstress shop called the Nifty Shop in Jackson, Tennessee, which is this very small town. And but I think as a little girl, just seeing what she was doing, I was fascinated by it, and it probably made a bigger impression on me than I realized at the time.
Now, I think that's a great point. Do you think that entrepreneurship is a DNA thing? Or do you think it's something that's nurture or nature, or both? I guess it could be both.
Um, Boy, that's a tough question. I would probably lean a little more towards nurture
Okay.
or I'm sorry, nature, but I think it does have to be nurtured.
Okay.
Um, I never even really heard the word entrepreneur until I moved to Dallas. It wasn't spoken in my home. It wasn't really an option for us. It was, go get your college degree, go get a job. But there was something in me that was unspoken. And so I realized, hey, I want to do this. I can do this. But where do I turn? I think the entrepreneurs in Dallas, the young people that are starting and older people that are starting their own businesses right now have so many assets available to them. So many places where they can co-locate or office virtually.
Sure.
It's just amazing what is available to them. And you mentioned groups that I'm involved in. I'm a member of the Dallas chapter of EO, the Worldwide Entrepreneurs Organization. That is an amazing organization for owners to network and to share peer-to-peer experiences, and to really lean on somebody when you're going through a tough time, and to also celebrate, when you're having a great moment.
Sure.
So, and then also Vistage is another organization, which is great. But there's so many other incubator groups and places where you can turn to for knowledge that simply were not that visible or accessible when I moved here in 1990. So I think it's just, again, Dallas is, I think, the place for entrepreneurship.
It really is, and you're right. There are a lot of tools out there. I know the Small Business Center they have one in Fort Worth. They have one in Dallas, and I have in my career, I've owned a business.
Right.
I own a business. I don't know that I've ever stopped owning business because it's just there's a feeling inside me that if I have a talent and it's something that I want to do and pursue, then it makes sense to excuse me, it makes sense to pursue it. And something that you said a moment ago was really interesting. It was great because you said, this is great when you have this problem on the radio.
I was scared it was going to happen to me.
The frog in the throat. But you said, when young people start, and we really do have to pave the way for these young people because they do have more tools than ever. And I think sometimes that's even more confusing if there's a lot of options out there. But one thing I wanted to point out is I think there's also, you said old people, and we won't call them old. I'll call us old. We are people that have retired from one thing and moving on to another. And I'm telling you, Amy, I talk to so many people that say, you know what, I've spent 30 years at this job and I'm ready to open my own dog wash shop or ice cream shop or something that they're really passionate about. And I'm just rooting for them because I am too. Think there's one career always.
Right. And we're living longer.
Absolutely.
I mean, they say 50 is the new 40. Let's hope so.
I think so.
So, there's just so many options available to people. And I was talking to an SMU student the other day who was in her senior year, and she's in a coding class. And she said she's the youngest person in her class. And I thought that was really interesting. It means that a lot of 30, 40, 50-year-olds are taking coding so that they can have a second career or second, company or whatever it is they're trying to do there. So I think it's amazing what's happening in Dallas.
Well, and you're a great inspiration, and that's part of what this show is about: is to inspire entrepreneurs, to inspire business owners to jump at those dreams and go for them. But here's a little lead in to our next break. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not.
It's not for the weaklings. I mean, there are so many ups and downs and goods, and I won't say good and bads, but there's just so many contrasting emotions that happen with business that, I want to just kind of visit with you on that, because I do think that as we grow this program, people who choose to archive and come back and watch the show, I want this to have meaning a year from now, 5 years from now, and give people an opportunity to say, well, Amy did it, I can do it, I'm going to hang in there. So you're listening to DFW Spotlight on Business with Heidi Hardy. Are we ready for a break? Yeah, we are. Okay. And we're going to go back to a quick break, but we'll be right back. I'm going to get rid of the frog in my throat, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to today's Biz Moment, brought to you by Insperity, inspiring business performance. Today's topic is getting helpful feedback from your employees. And the first thing is know who to ask. If you rarely ask your employees for feedback, start with a close, trusted employee. Your approach might be different based on tenure or role, but building a strong, collaborative team culture that includes everyone should be your ultimate goal. Let's all work together, shall we? Number 2, know when to ask. Request your team's opinions before or after important meetings, presentations, and projects while experiences and challenges are fresh in everyone's mind. In addition to performance reviews, ask your employees to engage in a reverse review of your leadership if you are brave enough to do that. Number 3, in order to get feedback, sometimes you need to encourage feedback. And that is through asking employees specific questions about the topic you're discussing and encourage them to be honest and not to hold back. But also give them time to come up with the answers. You may want to pose these questions to your team and give everyone time to think them through, and then meet at a later date to discuss their thoughts. Once again, it does require some amount of bravery on your part, but it will be worth it. Number 4, respond appropriately. Your reaction to feedback can make or break your team's culture. Resist any inclination to debate or argue or get defensive. Maintain eye contact, I'm looking at you, listen more than you talk, and ask follow-up questions. After, don't forget to thank them for the courage it took to be honest and open. Number 5, follow up. Follow up with employees who have given you feedback and talk through any decisions you've made as a result. Communicate next steps or action items as soon as possible to show your team that you are listening and open to their ideas. While you're doing that, stay tuned for more Insperity Biz Moments, business tips for savvy leaders. For more like these, visit the Insperity blog at insperity.com.
I love those intros that this wonderful company. I'm live from On Air Media Studios and in the Pod City Podcast Network room with Jansen Ray. Thank you. I was talking to Jansen earlier, and I said, in my past radio broadcast, I did everything. Like, I was doing the board, and so I feel like a princess here today. So my name is Heidi Hardy, and I'm your host of DFW Spotlight on Business. I got rid of the whatever was going on with my voice. And And we're here in the studio with Amy Power. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you.
Yep, she had a wonderful story. If you didn't hear it, if you're clicking in now, as a lot of people do with a live internet stream, go back to the archive. We're gonna make sure that everybody knows where the archives, and I'll share it with you as well, because it's a great story, and I think some people can relate. I don't know how many people had a baby and a business on the same day, but I think some people probably have. So watch the show. It's a great story. One thing that Amy and I have in common is we love great shoes.
Yes, we do.
And I took a picture of her shoes, and we're going to post those also. But we've had a couple of really good conversations. And Amy is a business owner in Dallas. She owns the Power Group. And we're going to talk more about the Power Group in just a moment. But they are a media company that handles PR of all kinds and media and branding. One thing that I want to get back to is the crisis management part of what
Sure.
you do. But we were talking on the break. We always have great breaks because that sort of sparks this juices of conversation. And, the questions that I like to ask entrepreneurs or business owners are, tell us about a time that you were elated, and who was that person that you spoke to? Here it comes. And then tell us about a time that was hard, and who was that person that you spoke to? And maybe it's the same person, but being a business owner can be very lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that from experience. And sometimes your spouse is just sick and tired of hearing it all. So talk to us a little bit about what you do when you have those big events or small events.
Sure. I think there is so much value in an organization, for example, like EO Dallas or Vistage. But in EO, we have basically like a small group where it's called a forum. And so that's a collection of peers, and you end up forming a very tight bond with those other owners, because you really are there to share and advise and not to sell each other. There's none of that happening. So
let me ask you
yeah.
why that's important.
Because it helps build trust.
Okay.
And I'm not there to sell my PR services to them. I'm there to talk about my business issues or concerns, and I'm here to help. And I'm also there to give back and help them. And the same with Vistage. Those are two fabulous organizations that I cannot stress enough how important they are. Because being an owner can be very lonely. And that's why you do spend so much time trying to network and get to know others. So when you do have those amazing moments where you've won that amazing piece of business, or you've done a really great project and your client is just over the moon happy, you want to share that with somebody that can really relate to it.
Sure.
And so, I tend to call my forum mates or call other owners that just have really seen my company grow, and I've seen theirs grow, and we've been on those journeys together. And the same with, the not so great moments. I had a friend recently deal with some turnover that seemed to happen all at once, and I've been through that.
Yeah.
So I can lift that person up. I can say it's going to be okay. You are going to get to the other side.
Yeah.
Where there's change, there's opportunity. I use that expression a lot. Which is great for a crisis, and it's also great when you're dealing with like more of a company situation,
Sure.
like massive turnover. So there's something that it was a really great moment, but there's something that I learned recently, or just had this aha moment, if you will. It doesn't matter if your company's 1 million or 50 million. We're all dealing with the same issues. Culture, company culture, morale,
Absolutely.
training, processes, procedures, financials, etc. I mean, you name it. It's just the scale is different, but the issue is still the same. And so there's a really great program in Dallas, and it's only in Dallas. It's called Biz Owners Ed. And I really encourage entrepreneurs, especially those that are in the first 5 to 7 years of business, anywhere in that time frame, to seek this out. It's really been off the radar, and but you'll find a lot of people who are focused on creating best practices for their company and focused on growth and just need some guidance. That program goes for about 10 weeks, and it's almost like you're being put into a time machine. You're getting the best of the best from people that have been there, done that. And I'm talking about people that have scaled and exited companies and done it again. And so they really know what you need to be looking for, how to build a relationship with your bank, how to build company culture, how to successfully exit a company. There's so much great learning there. And it's called Biz Owners Ed. Sure. And it's a nonprofit also.
Well, I would recommend that anyone watching now or in the future definitely take a look at that, because I think sometimes, and this is human nature, this is not just a business owner. As a leader of a corporation or as a leader of a team, you wait till it's too late. And it's not that it's ever too late to make a turn, but sometimes catching it early with somebody's advice or having somebody point it out, get a little myopic and tunneled when you're trying to pay the bills and make sure the projects are on time. And I had 3 employees in my business, and they were all phenomenal in their own way. They were all very young. And it felt like every day I was bringing them in to coach them in some way, which takes a lot of time. Yeah. And so, again, doing it today, being there and been there, there are some great organizations to go to. And so we encourage people to check that out.
Yeah, it helps you see where the blind spots are. Yeah.
Sure, sure. I remember a couple times I felt there was this feeling, that who was I going to call and how was I going to express whether it was elation or worry. And I had a few go-to people. And to this day, we're friends. And many times that's the case. They're not just your colleague or somebody that you see on a business basis. A lot of times you'll have dinner together or get to know each other's families. So speaking of families, you are a resident here in Dallas?
Frisco.
Okay.
A proud Frisconian.
Okay. I love Frisco. It's gorgeous. Good. Yeah. And you've been here for,
Well, since 1990.
Okay.
Met my husband here, had my children here, and then the office is down in the Design District area. So we just moved into a new space in April.
Yes. It is gorgeous. If you please go visit this office. She's done a fantastic job. Perfect for the design and for what you do. Speaking of what you do, the Power Group, again, one of the things that I do a lot, and that is I love podcasts, and I'm an audio. I like audio learning, and I listen to HBR a lot, the Harvard Business Review podcast, and there was one that was talking about that really today, it's more important than ever to build a brand, and then your services sort of wrap around that brand. And so talk to us about how the Power Groups helps companies do that, what you've learned it's been 18 years in October, what you've learned over the last 18 years, and what does that look like? Well,
we do help clients build their brand and create their image and voice. And we have a 20-step process that we use to help clients get there. It's a really fun and exciting journey to be on with them. And if there's one thing that I love doing, my why, if you will, why do I get out of bed every day? I just love helping clients move from A to B and then from B to C. Sure. Just going down that path, and just seeing their successes and wins. So. I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Well, we're just talking about building that brand and the importance of that. And then, obviously you work with people to do that, but how is it different today than it was in the past? Is it more difficult with all this social media? Is it easier? Is it, I know a couple times we've had a conversation about how companies that have been in business for quite a while do have to be malleable and flexible and change. And so from a branding and media standpoint, how's that happened?
Well, I mean, when I moved to Dallas, there were two newspapers, the Dallas Morning News,
Yep.
Dallas Times Herald. And for those of that remember that, it was, a very finite world.
Sure.
I remember getting an update from this service in New York about new programming that was coming online, and it said there's going to be a 24-hour food channel. I thought, how is this possible?
Yeah.
Is there that much information about food? But that's a show. I mean, I watch those networks every
I do
night.
too.
They're so much fun. But it's overwhelming in one sense, but it's also there's just so much opportunity to tell the story. So you just have to be very precise, as to where you're telling it, and be very strategic. This was an interesting story. I had a client tell me that another agency that they had worked with, the person actually said to them, well, we just throw it out there like spaghetti and see what sticks. And no,
That
you
doesn't
don't.
seem like a good plan.
No, and that's probably why they're no longer working together.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you just have to be extremely strategic and thoughtful about what you're doing, what you're saying, and especially now, because I think the millennial audience expects a brand to have an active voice, be responsive, solve their problems if they have one, or solve a complaint. And you just have to really be on top of that, especially if you're in the restaurant space, or if you're in a space where you're really interacting with consumers on a very frequent basis.
So what I hear you saying is that a business owner, would hire the Power Group to get them from that beginner level, I don't want to say bottom, but beginner level media, that maybe they're doing it all by themselves right now, and they've been growing, and they're really looking, they know that they have to put some attention on this part of their business, and building the brand and telling the stories is part of that, and that's why they would come to you.
Yeah, we work with emerging brands, certainly, brands that are past startup phase and really have a solid model. We also work with very large corporations. So I think the common denominator is that they want their story told, and they want it told in the right places. And we use an expression at the office, if you don't tell your story, somebody else will do it for you.
Sure.
And they may not want it done the right way, or done in the way that you want it told. So, it's interesting, some companies that we work with, which are very large, but they've really never ventured into the PR waters. And so it's fun to help them do that. We have one client that had never been in the press at all, and within a matter of 30 to 60 days, he was being quoted. The CEO was being quoted by Associated Press, and then later in, I believe it was Fortune magazine, when Amazon purchased Whole Foods. So it was an opportunity for him to be part of that conversation and to establish some credentials in that, relative to his own industry. So we look for things like that.
The opportunities to. Well, I think from my point of view as a consumer, I enjoy the companies that are coming across human, caring, responsible, like you said. And, I'm no millennial. In fact, I gave birth to 3 millennials right now. All 3 of them are millennials. But I think there are the conscious consumer is looking for someone to come out and just talk with them and not at them. And I would see a PR company having that ability to help a company do that.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a great segue into crisis communications.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I believe that managing a crisis, it's really just common sense. If you, whether it's a small situation or a rather large one, if you're really listening and really finding a way to solve the individual or the group's problem with your product or service while balancing the needs of the client, you can find a way to resolve it. And for any company that has ever experienced a crisis or will experience a crisis situation, speed is so important.
Okay.
Getting, understanding what the problem is, addressing it, or letting people know that it's going to be addressed. If you ignore it, it does not go away. I once had a television field reporters say that, we're like, and this is going to paint a bad picture of the media, which is not intended, but he said, if we smell blood in the water, we're going to keep coming around. We want to know what you're going to do about it. And he was specifically talking about a crisis situation. He was educating an audience on it. And it's accurate. If you just satisfy their need to get the information while balancing the needs of the client, you can oftentimes put those stories to rest. And, there may be another crisis or distraction for them down the road that
What's the financial impact of waiting? Is that larger? Do you find that if somebody's sort of waiting before they get out there?
You can do more damage, especially because we now have social media assets
I would agree.
To manage
Sure.
and to monitor. So things can get spiral out of control pretty quickly. So we had one situation, and I want to be respectful of the client's privacy here, but many years ago, there was a situation where somebody was offended and did not say anything on Facebook at the time. And this is actually 7 or 8 years ago. So social media was much more in its infancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine the situation today.
Sure.
I don't even think Twitter was there available at that point. But anyway, the person was offended, told a friend. The friend posted on Facebook, and then we all woke up 24 hours later, the next morning, and we were knee deep in Facebook post, and there was just this rally around this individual. So we had to work with the client pretty quickly and pull in the legal department, operations, and other key parties to put together a game plan for how to respond and then how to make it right. Because it clearly was something that we didn't do well, or that the client didn't do well. And then we were able to help the client change a policy, to create a new policy around this situation.
There you go.
Yeah.
Long term.
So that, so that we don't run into that situation again.
Sure.
And that's what a good PR team can do. We had this recently happen with another client where we were able to make a change in operations so that it doesn't happen again. So it's not just about fixing the problem, but solving it for longer, for future.
Well, I find it fascinating, especially the PR part, because I think I don't know that all businesses they understand the marketing, they understand the branding, but the PR oftentimes comes in too late after someone complains, or there's crisis out there right now. A doctor's office has medical records that they didn't shred, or
right.
Big companies like Target that somebody got a hold of a list of our credit cards and
Well, here's a great tip for any company.
Okay.
I don't care how small or big you are, but if you will stop for a moment and think about all the things that can go wrong, and really let your mind go way out there, you can then plan for those scenarios. Death of an executive, people traveling on, a flight together. What happens if your sales team, perishes? I mean, there's so many different scenarios, and they're terrible to think about, but you would be surprised how many companies operate without some form of a plan. And, a great PR team can be there to scramble with you and prepare everything that you need. Could there be a shooting in your building or facility? Could food poisoning happen? There's so many different things. And we have dealt with so many crisis situations, from like online reputation issues all the way to like rape and murder and very, sad and extreme events. And sometimes this has happened on a couple of occasions. The crisis is not even the client's crisis. They're just actually, brought into it,
right,
just by nature of geography, or maybe, a key partner in the supply chain. So, good planning really pays off, and that's where the money is saved. I think these can be extremely costly. We know they can. Look at what happened, with United. And,
yes.
And there's countless examples out there.
Well, everybody's ready to take a video and that's
even
more dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, we're running low on time. So I want to give you an opportunity. Let's say somebody's listening, somebody's watching, and they're thinking, I have some questions
Sure.
for the Power Group. How would they get in touch with you?
Just a simple email would be great. And they can email me at Amy, AMY, at thepowergroup.com. So it's THE, powergroup.com.
Okay. And, mention that you were watching DFW Spotlight on business, and I'm sure any questions open. I think there are, like you said, there's a lot of imagination going on.
Sure.
And as a business owner, when you bring those things up, and nobody wants to think about them, but it's often a good thing to prepare for.
And I invite them to also go check out Biz Owners Ed. I think that's a great program.
Okay.
I went through it, and it's just fantastic.
Well, Amy, you have been delightful. Thank you for being our guest here on DFW Spotlight on Business, and the emphasis is on DFW locally. So we really do want to send people to you and encourage them to use your services. Encourage them to come back next week. We actually have a very I am so excited. I get excited about our guests. This is Lynn O'Neill. She's the CEO of Futures Consulting, and Lynn's experience spans numerous industries and includes operations consulting and human resources. She is a former vice president and board member, corporate officer for Continental Airlines, where she operated a $300 million division with the responsibility for several thousand employees. Just a delightful woman, and she has a business now where she's coaching and speaking, and so hopefully tune in next week. We can pull some of that wisdom out. I think we might have probably 1 minute to go. Can you in 1 minute give your advice to any business owner out there, and anything to sum it up?
Oh wow, I think just never give up. I think the one thing that entrepreneurs have in common, regardless of the size of their business, is the ability to be resilient. And it's not that we're better, faster, stronger, smarter, whatever. I think it's just the ability to pick ourselves up and keep going. And you're right, it is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm sure anyone who's listening and appreciates those words of encouragement and inspiration, motivation. That's what I promised when I put it out there. I said you're going to be inspired and motivated by our wonderful guest, Amy Power. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, guys. Please share this on all your social media. And I have a thought for the week, and that is, there are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. And that's by Colin Powell. I love quotes, and I think they help us sort of get through the day. You're watching to DFW Spotlight on Business with Heidi Hardy. Thanks for being here.